I spent $8,000 flying my family out for my law school graduation. They backed out last minute and texted, "Sitting through that sounds like a nightmare." My uncle added, "Call us when you actually win something." So I sent them a photo of my diploma, draped over their empty front row seats. A few hours later, my mom called in tears, but I'd already blocked her entire side of the family. I, 26M, stared at my phone screen, reading the group text for the third time. My hands were actually shaking. 3 years of law school, countless sleepless nights, and mountains of debt later, and this was what I got from my family. Mom had texted first, "Sorry, honey, something came up with work. Can't make it to graduation tomorrow. You understand, right?" Then my uncle chimed in, "Honestly, sitting through that sounds like a nightmare. Call us when you actually win something important." My younger sister added, "Yeah, graduations are so boring anyway. We'll celebrate when you get back home." $8,000. That's what I'd spent on plane tickets, hotels, and dinner reservations for 7 family members. I'd booked everything months ago, excited to share this moment with the people who were supposed to matter most. I'd even arranged for front row seats at the ceremony, pulling strings with the administration office to make sure my family had the best view possible. The worst part wasn't even the money. It was that I'd believed them when they said they were proud of me, when they said they couldn't wait to see me walk across that stage, when they promised this would be different from all the other times they'd let me down. I should have seen it coming. They'd missed my high school graduation because my cousin had a soccer game. They'd skipped my college graduation because it was too far to travel. But I kept hoping things would change. That maybe, just maybe, law school graduation would be important enough for them to show up. My phone buzzed again. Another text from my uncle. "Besides, what's the big deal? You're just going to be another lawyer in a suit. Nothing special about that." Something inside me snapped. I'd spent my entire life being the responsible one, the one who never caused drama, who always understood when family plans fell through. But not today. Not anymore. I walked to my closet and pulled out my cap and gown. The ceremony was tomorrow morning, but suddenly I had a much better idea for how to spend the evening. The graduation venue was empty when I arrived around sunset. Security knew me from all the rehearsals, so getting in wasn't a problem. I told the guard I needed to check something with the seating arrangements, which wasn't entirely a lie. The auditorium looked massive without hundreds of people filling it. My footsteps echoed as I walked down to the front row, counting seats until I found the section I'd reserved. 7 chairs, perfectly positioned with an unobstructed view of the stage. Each seat had a small card with my family's names on them. I carefully removed each name card and placed them in my pocket. Then I walked back to my car and retrieved the item I'd brought with me, my diploma frame. The university had given us our actual diplomas at a small ceremony the week before, but tomorrow was the big public celebration. I returned to the auditorium and draped my framed diploma across the 7 empty seats. The black leather frame stood out starkly against the red velvet chairs. I pulled out my phone and took several photos from different angles, making sure to capture both the diploma and the clearly visible empty seats in the background. The symbolism was perfect. Here was my achievement, literally sitting in the place where my family should have been, where they'd promised to be before deciding I wasn't worth their time or effort. I posted the photo to social media with a simple caption: "When your family decides your law school graduation sounds like a nightmare and cancels last minute after you spend $8,000 on their flights and hotels, guess my diploma will have to represent itself in their front row seats." Within minutes, my phone was exploding with notifications. Likes, comments, shares. Friends from law school, undergrad, even high school were commenting with words of support and congratulations. Many shared their own stories of family disappointments and missed milestones. But it was my law school classmates' reactions that really got to me. Sarah commented that she couldn't believe anyone would skip such an important moment. Marcus said his whole family had flown in from 3 different states just to watch him walk across the stage. These people understood what this meant, even if my blood relatives didn't. I drove home to my small apartment, feeling a mixture of satisfaction and sadness. The photo was gaining traction online, being shared by people I didn't even know. Apparently, my story had struck a nerve with others who'd experienced similar family letdowns. My phone started ringing around 10 p.m. Mom's number flashed on the screen. I let it go to voicemail. She called again immediately, then again. By the 4th call, I was ready to answer, but something held me back. What could she possibly say that would make this better? The voicemail notification popped up, and I decided to listen. Mom's voice was shaky, almost panicked. "Honey, please call me back. I saw your post online. People are sharing it everywhere, and some of them are saying terrible things about our family. Please take it down. We can work this out." I deleted the voicemail without finishing it. Uncle started texting around 11. "What the hell is wrong with you? Do you have any idea how this makes us look? Take that post down right now." Then my sister chimed in. "This is so embarrassing. My friends are asking me about it. Why are you being so dramatic?" Each message just reinforced that they were more worried about their public image than they were about hurting me. Not one of them had apologized. Not one had acknowledged that maybe, just maybe, they'd made a mistake. I spent the rest of the evening blocking phone numbers. Mom, Dad, Uncle, Aunt, both grandmothers, my sister, 2 cousins. One by one, I removed their access to me. It felt surprisingly liberating, like cutting away dead weight I'd been carrying for years. Update 1. The graduation ceremony was surreal. I walked across that stage to thunderous applause, but not from my family. Instead, it was my law school friends, their families, professors, and even some strangers who'd seen my story online and decided to come show support. Sarah's parents had driven 4 hours to be there for her, and when they saw me sitting alone before the ceremony, they invited me to join their family photos. Marcus's grandmother, a tiny woman with fierce eyes, told me she was proud of me and that my family was foolish for missing this moment. The most unexpected part was when Dean Patterson pulled me aside after the ceremony. He'd seen my post and wanted to let me know that the school was proud of my accomplishment, regardless of whether my family chose to recognize it. He mentioned that my story had actually inspired several other students who'd been dealing with unsupportive families. I left my diploma draped across those empty seats throughout the entire ceremony. Several people took photos, and I noticed some of my classmates pointing it out to their families. It had become a symbol, not just of my family's absence, but of choosing to celebrate achievements even when the people who should care most decide not to show up. After the ceremony, I went to the expensive restaurant where I'd made reservations for 8 people. I tried to cancel earlier in the week when I realized my family wasn't coming, but there was a cancellation fee that would have cost me another $1,000. So instead, I decided to use the opportunity differently. I invited 3 classmates who'd been particularly supportive, along with their families. We turned it into an impromptu celebration dinner for everyone who'd actually shown up for each other throughout law school. The restaurant staff was confused when 12 people showed up for a reservation for 8, but they managed to accommodate us. During dinner, one of my classmates' fathers made a toast. He said that sometimes the family we choose is more important than the family we're born into. Everyone raised their glasses, and for the first time in days, I felt genuinely happy instead of just vindicated. My phone had been buzzing all day with calls from blocked numbers. They were trying to reach me through mutual friends, through old high school acquaintances, even through my landlord somehow. But I wasn't ready to hear their explanations or excuses. Update 2. 3 days after graduation, my post had been shared over 50,000 times. It had spread far beyond my social media circles and was showing up in groups for law students, family drama forums, and even some news websites had picked it up as a human interest story. The comments section had become a mix of support for me and criticism of my family's behavior. Some people shared similar stories of family members who'd consistently prioritized other things over important milestones. Others offered congratulations and encouragement for starting my legal career. But there was also a subset of comments criticizing me for airing family business publicly. A few people suggested I was being overdramatic or that there might have been legitimate emergencies that prevented my family from coming. These comments stung, but they were overwhelmingly outnumbered by messages of support. The real turning point came when local news station reached out for an interview. They wanted to do a segment about family relationships and social media accountability. I declined the interview, realizing that I'd made my point and didn't need to escalate things further. That evening, my blocked phone numbers started trying a different approach. They began reaching out to mutual friends, asking them to convince me to take down the post and unblock everyone so we could talk like adults. My college roommate called to tell me that my aunt had contacted him, claiming there had been a family emergency that prevented everyone from coming to graduation. She wanted him to pass along the message that they were all devastated about missing it and hoped I would understand. I asked him what the emergency was. He admitted that my aunt had been vague about the details and seemed more concerned about the social media attention than about whatever emergency had supposedly occurred. My childhood neighbor also reached out, saying my mom had been by her house in tears, claiming I was ruining the family's reputation over a misunderstanding. She wanted me to know that my mom was really suffering because of the public nature of the situation. Each of these secondhand messages followed the same pattern. They were sorry I was hurt, but I needed to understand their perspective, and most importantly, I needed to stop making this public. Not once did anyone acknowledge that their behavior had been genuinely wrong, only that my response to it was causing them problems. Update 3. A week after graduation, I was settling into my new job at a mid-sized firm when I received an unexpected visitor. My mom had somehow found out where I worked and showed up in the lobby, asking the receptionist to call me downstairs. I saw her through the glass doors before she saw me. She looked exhausted, older somehow, with dark circles under her eyes. For a moment, I felt the familiar tug of guilt that had kept me accepting their behavior for so many years. But then I remembered sitting alone at that graduation ceremony, looking at those empty seats I'd paid $8,000 to fill. I approached the receptionist and asked her to tell my visitor that I wasn't available. Mom saw me through the glass and started waving, mouthing words I couldn't hear. She pressed her hand against the glass like she was in a movie, trying to communicate something urgent and important. The receptionist looked uncomfortable as she delivered my message. Mom's face crumpled, and for a moment I thought she might actually cry right there in the corporate lobby. Instead, she straightened up, wrote something on a piece of paper, and handed it to the receptionist before leaving. The note was brief. Please call me. I need to explain what really happened. There are things you don't understand. This is destroying our family. I crumpled up the note and threw it away, but I couldn't stop thinking about her face pressed against that glass. The problem was, I did understand what really happened. It wasn't complicated or mysterious. They'd decided that my graduation wasn't worth their time or money, despite my investment in making sure they could be there. That weekend, I learned through a mutual friend that there hadn't been any family emergency. The real reason they'd canceled was because my uncle had decided he wanted to use his vacation days for a fishing trip instead, and he'd convinced the others that graduations were boring anyway. My mom had gone along with it because she didn't want to be the only one who showed up. This information should have made me angrier, but instead it brought a strange sense of peace. I'd been right to trust my instincts about their priorities. I hadn't overreacted or misunderstood the situation. They really had chosen a fishing trip over one of the most important days of my life. Final update. It's been 3 months since graduation, and the dust has mostly settled. My post eventually stopped circulating, though it still gets the occasional like or comment from someone discovering it for the first time. I've started my legal career and found that I genuinely enjoy the work. My colleagues know nothing about my family drama, and I prefer it that way. Here, I'm just the new associate who works hard and asks good questions, not the guy whose family publicly rejected his accomplishments. Several family members have tried reaching out through various channels, but their messages all follow the same pattern. They acknowledge that I was hurt by their decision, but they want me to understand that family is more important than holding grudges. They suggest that I'm being immature by maintaining the boundaries I've set. What they don't seem to grasp is that I'm not holding a grudge. I'm simply accepting the reality they've shown me about their priorities. For years, I kept hoping they'd change, kept believing that maybe the next important event would be different. The graduation situation didn't create our problems. It just made them impossible to ignore. I've started spending holidays with friends instead of feeling obligated to visit family members who consistently make me feel unimportant. Last month, I was invited to my law school study group's Thanksgiving celebration, and it was the first holiday I'd enjoyed in years. The most surprising development has been the messages from other people who saw my original post. I've heard from dozens of people who shared similar stories of family members missing important milestones or consistently prioritizing other things over their achievements. Many said my post helped them realize they weren't overreacting to their own situations. One message particularly stood out. It was from a woman whose parents had skipped her medical school graduation to attend a cousin's birthday party. She said seeing my post helped her understand that she didn't have to keep accepting behavior that made her feel unvalued, even if it came from family. I still think about those empty seats sometimes, about the $8,000 I spent trying to include people who didn't want to be included. But I don't regret the money as much as I expected to. In a way, It was the cost of learning something important about the people I'd been prioritizing over my own well-being. My diploma now hangs in my office, properly framed and positioned where I can see it every day. It represents 3 years of hard work, late nights, and personal sacrifice. More importantly, it represents the moment I stopped waiting for other people to value my accomplishments and started valuing them myself. Sometimes choosing yourself means disappointing the people who've been disappointing you. It took me 26 years to learn that lesson, but I learned it well. The people who show up for you deserve your energy. The ones who don't have made their priorities clear, and you should believe them. I haven't unblocked any of the phone numbers, and I don't plan to. Some bridges are worth burning when they only lead to places that make you feel small.